The sound of screeching steel hadn't even faded when he found her, bloodied, unconscious, and pinned between twisted metal and shattered glass. And just as the medics rushed in, she opened her eyes, locked them on his, and whispered his mother's name, word for word, like it was sacred. His knees buckled. She couldn't have known that name. Not unless she was part of the story he'd buried decades ago. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. Miles Thatcher, 34, wasn't supposed to be there. He was a single dad in upstate New York, a blue-collar electrician juggling overtime jobs just to keep the lights on, literally and metaphorically. But that day, his daughter Ellie had begged for a train ride to the city for her 10th birthday. "Just once, Dad," she said with those brown eyes that looked way too much like her late mother's. So there they were, waiting on the platform, when chaos struck. A freight train clipped a stalled commuter line just 2 platforms over. The explosion was deafening. Metal roared like thunder, windows shattered into clouds of knives, and screams flooded the air like sirens from hell. Instinct took over. While others ran, Miles ran toward it, with Ellie screaming behind him not to go. He reached the twisted wreckage and began pulling debris off survivors, his calloused hands bloodied, not even noticing his own injuries. That's when he saw her, half buried under a beam, her blonde hair stained red, her hand twitching. "Hey, stay with me," he shouted, checking her pulse, keeping pressure on the wound at her ribs. "Come on, Bree." She coughed once. Eyes fluttered. And then came the words that made the world tilt beneath him. Miranda Thatcher. He froze. That was his mother's name. A name she hadn't used in over 30 years. A name buried with the past and sealed behind secrets he never wanted to open again. "Where did you hear that name?" he asked. But she was out again, limp, unconscious. Paramedics rushed over and pushed him back. But he stood there, shaking, his heart pounding harder than the crash that had just unfolded. That name, it meant something. It had to. He looked down at the woman. Maybe late 20s. Designer coat. Her wristwatch alone could have bought him a month's groceries. She didn't look like someone who would have known his mother. Or would she? As the ambulance took off, he turned to follow it. But then Ellie's small hand gripped his. "Dad, are you okay?" Miles blinked. "Yeah, baby. I'm okay." But he wasn't. Not even close. And this was just the beginning. Miles barely slept that night. After making sure Ellie was okay, tucking her in, double-kissing her forehead, and locking every door twice, he sat in the living room with the lights off, staring at a picture frame that hadn't moved from the shelf in 10 years. A black-and-white photo. His mother, Miranda Thatcher. The same soft eyes as the woman in that train wreck. That wasn't possible. His mother had died 2 decades ago, in a crash of her own. A plane crash no one talked about anymore. Not his dad, not the relatives they no longer saw, and definitely not Miles. But this woman, whoever she was, had whispered Miranda's name like a dying prayer. The next morning, he dropped Ellie at school and drove to the hospital. The wreckage had made the news, but her name wasn't in any of the survivor lists released to the public. He walked straight to the ER front desk. "I'm looking for a woman. Blonde, late 20s. She was pulled from the train collision yesterday. I was the first responder. She said something strange. I need to check if she's okay." The nurse eyed him. "Are you family?" "No." Listen." She said my mother's name. The nurse softened, recognizing the urgency in his voice. "You're talking about the Jane Doe in ICU. No ID, no phone, no purse. Just her coat and that broken wristwatch. Can I see her?" The nurse hesitated. "Only for a minute. She's stable, but still unconscious." He nodded, heart pounding. When he stepped in her room, he felt like he'd walked into a memory. Her face, pale and bruised, still looked too familiar. Not because he'd seen her before, but because something about her echoed through his bones, as if his blood knew hers. And then she stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, icy blue. She blinked, then whispered, hoarse and faint, "You came back." Miles stepped closer. "You know me." Her gaze was distant. "No, but your mother said you would." He stumbled back like he'd been slapped. "What did you say?" She said, "One day you'd find me. That I'd be in trouble. That I should say her name if I ever saw you." Miles sat down in the plastic chair, his whole body shaking. "That's not possible. My mother died 20 years ago. No, she whispered. That's what they told you. But she didn't. What? She winced, chest rising and falling rapidly. She disappeared. Because she had to. Because she was hiding from them. From who? But her body convulsed slightly, and the machines began beeping. A nurse rushed in, pushing Miles out of the way. She needs rest. You'll have to leave. He stepped back, numb, haunted. Outside the room, he leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. His mother didn't die. She disappeared. Why would she fake her death? What did this woman mean by them? And how was this stranger tied to it all? As he left the hospital, he pulled out his phone and opened an old contact he hadn't touched in years. Dad. He hesitated, then texted. We need to talk. It's about Mom. The old man hadn't replied to texts in years. But 30 minutes after Miles hit send, his phone rang. Hello. Miles answered, voice tight. His father's voice was as rough as he remembered. You was skin about your mother. After all this time? I didn't want to, Miles muttered. But something happened. Something I can't explain. Silence on the line. Then a tired sigh. You still in Poughkeepsie? Yeah. Come over. But if you're looking for peace, son, you're not going to find it here. He hung up. By the time Miles reached the edge of town and pulled into the cracked gravel driveway of his childhood home, his heart was thudding like a war drum. The place hadn't changed. Same peeling shutters. Same dead rose bushes out front. Ghosts in every corner. His dad opened the door without a word and stepped aside. Inside, everything smelled like old wood and regret. Miles didn't waste time. A woman survived that train crash yesterday. She was injured bad, but before she passed out, she said Mom's name. His father paled slightly. She said, Miles continued, that Mom didn't die. That she disappeared. That she was hiding from someone. The old man walked to the kitchen and poured himself a drink, bourbon neat, before noon. She told you that much already, he said softly. So it's true. Miles demanded. You lied to me. I protected you, he snapped. You were a boy. You don't know what it was like. The things your mother got involved in. Miles's voice cracked. I buried her in my heart. Every day for the last 20 years. Every birthday. Every holiday. You let me believe she was dead. And now you say it was protection. His father set the glass down, hands shaking. She worked for them, Miles. Not the government. Something darker. Something private. They dealt in secrets. And your mom? She found out things. About people. Powerful ones. People who would do anything to keep those secrets buried. Miles stared. You're talking like this is a spy movie. Do I look like I'm joking? His dad growled. You ever wonder why her plane went down, but there was never a body? Never a report? Just technical failure. And a casket we weren't allowed to open. Miles' stomach turned. His father continued. She came to me once. Weeks after they said she died. Said she was being hunted. Said the only way to keep you safe was to let the world think she was gone. She left a file. Said if anything ever happened, I should burn it. But I didn't. He opened a locked drawer under the old TV stand and pulled out a thick, yellowed envelope. On the front, in Miranda Thatcher's slanted handwriting, for Miles. If he ever finds her. Miles took it with trembling fingers. Inside were black and white photos, some showing Miranda with a younger man, a military officer, outside what looked like foreign embassies. One showed a photo of a blonde toddler girl, clutching Miranda's hand. But it wasn't him. It wasn't Ellie. It was the woman from the train. He froze. Who is she? Miles asked. What was she to Mom? His father looked away. Her daughter. Miles's breath caught. Her what? She had a child after she left. Somewhere overseas. We didn't know much. Didn't want to. We were supposed to stay apart. But I guess she told that girl about you. He couldn't process it. A half-sister? Why now? Why a train crash? Why the cryptic warning? He left the house in a daze, clutching the envelope like it might disappear if he blinked. But outside, as he approached his truck, he noticed something strange. A dark sedan parked across the street. 2 men in suits inside, watching. And suddenly, the air around him felt cold. He wasn't just chasing the past anymore. The past was watching him. Miles didn't go home. Not with Ellie waiting there. Not with 2 men in a black car, watching from across the street like ghosts in business suits. Not after finding out he had a half-sister no one ever told him about. One who bled all over his hands yesterday and whispered his dead mother's name like a secret code. Instead, he drove. Fast. No music. No destination. Just roads. He ended up in a motel on Route 44. One of those half-dead roadside places where the light flickers and the air smells like mildew and old carpet. Room 12. He closed the curtains, locked the door, shoved the old envelope into the drawer next to the Gideon Bible, and sat on the edge of the bed, his mind spinning like an unhinged fan. What kind of life did his mother really live? Who were those men? And how deep did this go? He didn't sleep. Morning came. He looked like hell, bloodshot eyes, unshaven, his fingers twitching from too much caffeine and not enough answers. But one thought had rooted itself in his brain overnight, like a weed breaking through concrete. They're going to kill her. The woman, his sister, was the only living link to Miranda Thatcher. She'd survived the wreck. But for how long? Miles grabbed his keys, ignoring the fear crawling up his spine, and drove straight back to the hospital. But when he got there, her bed was empty. Room 213, cleared out. What the hell do you mean she's gone? Miles barked at the nurse at the desk. She was discharged, the nurse said flatly. Paperwork signed and everything. By who? Her brother. Miles froze. She doesn't have a brother. The nurse frowned. Sir, I really can't. Miles turned and stormed down the hallway. ICU cameras. Exit signs. He bolted into the security office, flashing a construction badge he hadn't worn in months. I'm here for the third-party safety inspection, he lied. Your cameras weren't reporting yesterday. My team flagged it. Show me feed from this morning. Around 6:30 a.m. The guard hesitated, but Miles looked the part, grizzled, fast-talking, holding a clipboard he snatched from a hallway tray. The screen lit up, and there she was, a wheelchair being rolled down the hallway. Slumped in it, his sister, sedated, pushed by a man in scrubs who didn't work there. No name badge, no ID, and behind him, two men in black suits, the same ones from the sedan. Miles's throat tightened. They had her. He didn't wait another second. He drove to the only person left who might know what this was all about. Bennett Harlow, his mother's old contact from the days before she died. Ex-military, now running a junkyard out in the Catskills. Miles had heard the name whispered once, years ago, when his father had too much bourbon and mumbled, if anything ever happens. Harlow's the only one who knows the rest. 2 hours later, Miles's truck rolled over gravel and broken glass, pulling into a yard full of twisted metal and rusting engines. Harlow stepped out from behind a burned-out Chevy. 60s. Black beard. Half his face burned like melted wax. And in his hand, a shotgun. I was told to expect a Thatcher, he growled. Didn't think it'd be you. I need answers. Harlow tilted his head. Your mom always said you'd come sniffing when the time came. She's dead, Miles said quietly. No, Harlow said, stepping closer, lowering the shotgun. She's alive. Or at least she was. 2 years ago, she sent me something, told me to give it to her daughter if she ever showed up, and to warn you. Warn me about what? Harlow walked to an old safe under the porch steps, spun the dial, pulled out a worn leather folder. Inside, coordinates, maps, photos, government seals, and one single photo of Miranda Thatcher, much older, standing next to the woman from the hospital. His sister. Her name's Elena. Harlow said. She was raised by her mom in hiding. But she got curious, started digging, and now they're after her. Who are they? Private military contractors, funded by shell companies. No names, no uniforms, just ghosts. Your mom stole something from them. Data, footage, evidence. Things that could destroy the careers of billionaires. They've been chasing that file for 20 years. And Elena has it. She doesn't know she does. But I bet my other eye, your mother left it with her. Hidden somewhere only you could find. Miles backed up, his breath catching. She knew I'd meet her. Miranda was always 3 steps ahead. Harlow nodded. But you need to be 5, or they'll put both of you in the ground before the sun comes up. Miles didn't respond. He just turned, climbed into his truck, and gripped the wheel so hard his knuckles cracked. They had Elena. They were watching him. And somewhere out there was the final message his mother left behind, one that could burn the whole system to ash. But first, he had to survive the night. Miles drove straight through nightfall. No music, no GPS, just the coordinates from the folder Harlow gave him, burned into his brain like a brand. Trees blurred by. Fog clung to the asphalt like smoke. And somewhere out in the dark, his half-sister Elena, his blood, was being hunted, drugged, and moved like cargo. The coordinates led to an abandoned government testing site deep in the forest near Bear Mountain. One of those fenced-off, rusted compounds the public forgot, but the wrong people never did. No signs, no lights, just a single gravel road curling up the hill like a snake with secrets. He parked half a mile out, killing his headlights. Got out, checked the revolver Harlow had handed him. 6 bullets. No backup. You ever shot one of these? Harlow had asked earlier, before he left. Only in a dream, Miles muttered. Well, let's hope you aim like you dreamed then. Now, crouched behind thick pines, wind freezing against his knuckles, Miles scoped the facility. 2 trucks. A van with blacked-out windows. For men outside with rifles. One leaning against the van, smoking like he was on break from hell. They wore no insignia, no uniforms, just boots and silence. And power. One guard disappeared into the main building. Lights flickered inside. Miles waited, mapped the movement, counted the seconds between patrol loops. And then, he moved. Low. Fast. Every breath timed between boot steps. He crept along the chain-link fence, found a rusted cut already there. Someone had been here before. Probably Miranda. Or Elena. He slipped through, heart thudding. 10 feet from the building, he saw her. Through a dirty glass window. Elena, strapped to a metal chair. For in her arm, head slumped to the side, barely conscious. And across from her, a man in a dark green coat. Slick hair. Cold eyes. He was talking to her like he had all the time in the world. You have no idea what you're sitting on, the man said calmly. Your mother didn't just steal files. She recorded everything. Meetings. Transactions. Names. He pulled out a photo. Miles's breath caught. It was Miranda, holding a recorder, standing outside a Capitol Hill building. You think hiding out in Europe kept you safe? It only kept you ignorant. But now that you came looking, well, you're a problem that needs solving. Elena barely lifted her head. She told me, if someone ever called her by the name Miranda Thatcher again, they'd be family. That's how I knew to trust him. Trust who? The man asked. And that's when the window shattered. Boom. Miles's boot came flying through, glass exploding everywhere. Gun in hand, heart in his throat. Elena's eyes widened as the door burst open. Miles didn't hesitate. One shot, straight into the shoulder of the man with the slick hair. He dropped, screaming. The guards outside rushed in. Miles ducked, flipped the metal tray table, grabbed Elena, and yanked the 4 out. Blood, panic, alarms. But his hand was steady. I got you, he whispered. Brother, she croaked, eyes wide. They killed her. They killed Mom. I know, Miles said, fighting the heat in his throat. But they're not going to kill you too. They moved fast. Down the hallway. Out the side exit. But one guard stood in their way, rifle raised, until a second shot rang out from behind the trees. Harlow. He stepped out of the dark, shotgun over his shoulder, smoke curling from the barrel. Told you I'd cover you. Thatcher. They made it to the truck. Elena collapsed in the back seat, trembling. What were they looking for? Miles asked as he peeled out, headlights slicing through the black woods. They thought I had it, she murmured. But Mom didn't give it to me. Then where is it? Elena's hand slipped in her coat pocket. She pulled out a tiny micro SD card. She hid it inside that old wristwatch I wore, she said. The one they broke in the wreck. I only found it this morning. Miles stared at the card. On it, every dirty deal, every offshore account, every confession Miranda Thatcher had recorded before disappearing from the world. This, he said, this could bring down empires. Elena nodded weakly. She said you'd know what to do. He swallowed hard, then looked at his phone. He still had the contact from his last gig, working a job for a journalist at the Globe. The one place left that might still run truth without fear. He tapped the name and hit send. 3 weeks later, the front page of the Globe ran with the headline, Thatcher Files Leak Exposes Global Corruption Ring. Evidence dates back 20 years. Congress hearings erupted. CEO stepped down. Arrests made across 3 countries. The media tried to find who leaked the files, but no one could trace it. Miles didn't give statement. Elena went into witness protection, with Harlow watching her back. And Miles? He went back home. Back to Ellie. He picked her up from school with shaking hands, tears in his eyes. Where were you, Daddy? She asked. Getting answers, sweetheart, he whispered, and making sure no one can hurt us again. She looked up at him, confused but trusting. And in that moment, Miles knew revenge wasn't what mattered. Protecting the people who still had a chance, that's what Miranda Thatcher died for. And now, that's what Miles would live for.